Hello everyone. In this issue, I would like to talk about an unexpected aspect of Immanuel Kant, who is known as a giant in the world of philosophy. Kant has a strong image as a difficult philosopher known as the author of Critique of Pure Reason, but in fact, he had a very unique lifestyle and interesting episodes. When most of us think of Kant, difficult concepts such as things themselves and categorical imperative come to mind. But in fact, he had a fascinating human nature that we cannot imagine from textbooks. In this issue, we would like to get closer to the true face of such human Kant. What is particularly interesting is that even though he never left the city of Königsberg, now Kaliningrad, where he spent his entire life, he developed ideas that had a global impact. How and why was this possible? Let's take a look. Chapter 1. A life as precise as a clock. Here are some details about Kant's lifestyle that will surprise everyone. First, let's look at his daily schedule. At 5 a.m., Kant wakes up at a fixed time. His servant, Lamp, always had to wake him up at this time, even if Kant worked until midnight. Interestingly, Kant did not use an alarm clock, but started his day with, Lamp, ist es Zeit? Lamp, ist es Zeit? Breakfast was very simple. Tea and a pipe. This pipe was a special one, and he was only allowed to smoke it at certain times during the day. Morning hours were devoted to writing and preparing for lectures, and it is said that these were his most creative hours. From 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., he lectured at the university. Kant's lectures were popular and always packed. He never read from a manuscript during his lectures, but rather improvised and developed his ideas. Students testified that his manner of speaking was sometimes joking and friendly. The most interesting part of Kant's day is the meal that begins at 1 p.m. This was not just a meal, but truly functioned as an intellectual salon. 3 to 5 guests were invited. The number of guests was never too many, never too few, but adjusted to the number that would encourage the most lively conversation. The rules of the meal were also strict. The meal began with soup, which had to be finished while it was still warm. Then came the main dish, followed by dessert. It is interesting to note that Kant even controlled the topic of conversation during the meal. He would start with a light topic and gradually develop it into a deeper discussion. It was as if he was directing the meal and conversation as a single work of art. The walk at 3:45 p.m. was truly legendary. Kant always walked the same route, alone. The route, known as the Philosopher's Walk, is still one of Kaliningrad's most popular tourist attractions. He never failed to take a walk even in bad weather, and on rainy days, his servant Ramp would walk behind him with an umbrella. One amusing episode is that one time he was so engrossed in a book he loved to read that he almost forgot to take a walk. The story goes that Kant rushed outside, walked faster than usual, and returned home on time. This story also shows his commitment to regularity. Chapter 2. Unexpected Love Affair. Despite his image as a staunch philosopher, Kant's love life was surprisingly dramatic. In fact, it is said that Kant had at least 3 opportunities to marry. The most famous is his relationship with Johanna Maria Wagner, whom we mentioned earlier. She was the daughter of a local businessman, a well-educated woman with whom Kant enjoyed intellectual conversation. It is said that Kant was seriously considering marrying her and was actually even preparing to ask her to marry him. But here is where Kant's character comes into play. He began to analyze marriage from all angles, as if he were considering a philosophical problem. The impact of marriage on his studies, financial issues, and above all, the question of whether he would make a good husband. Kant speculated endlessly on these issues. Of particular interest is his deep consideration of freedom in marriage. Kant was very concerned about the freedom of thought that could be lost in marriage. A letter from a friend of his states that Kant thought seriously about the institution of marriage as if he were constructing a new philosophical system. Another candidate was rumored to be a certain countess. This lady was deeply interested in Kant's philosophy and frequently corresponded with him. However, due to the difference in status and Kant's indecisiveness, this relationship never bore fruit. Most interesting is Kant's view of marriage as he described it in his later years. When I was young, I could not afford to get married because I did not have the means to make a living. By the time I had enough to live on, I was too old to get married. These words have a deep resonance for those of us living today. Chapter 3. an unexpected hobby and socializing side. One unexpected aspect of Kant is the fact that he was actually a great socializer. The daily dinner meetings were more than just meal times, they were an important social occasion in Königsberg at the time. What is noteworthy is the richness of Kant's topics of conversation. Rather reserved about philosophy, he enjoyed a wide variety of topics, including politics, literature, art, and even the latest gossip of the day. According to friends, Kant was especially fond of reading travelogues, and his knowledge of them allowed him to talk about places around the world as if he had actually visited them. His obsession with fashion is another interesting and unexpected aspect of his life. Kant kept abreast of the latest fashions of the time. In particular, his records on his wardrobe are astonishing. A salmon pink jacket, a blue coat with gold buttons, silk stockings. These were all very fashionable attire for the time. Kant was also a lover of music. In particular, records show that he was fond of Mozart's music. He said, "Music gives me pure sensual pleasure." Even more surprising is the fact that Kant was an avid lover of billiards. The billiard table Kant used is still preserved in a cafe near the university. He called the game a practical application of geometry and was enthusiastic about it with his friends. Chapter 4. Unknown research topics. The diversity of Kant's research is unimaginable in today's specialized academia. Before he was a philosopher, he was a researcher in a wide range of natural sciences. Particularly noteworthy are his contributions to astrophysics. In his Theory of General Natural History and Celestial Bodies, published in 1755, he developed a theory of cosmogenesis similar to the modern Big Bang theory. In this theory, he proposed the nebular theory, that the solar system was formed from a huge cloud of gas. This theory, revolutionary at the time, was later refined mathematically by Laplace and became the basis for the modern theory of planetary formation. His contributions to seismology are also interesting. After the Great Lisbon earthquake of 1755, Kant published 3 papers. He believed that earthquakes were caused by explosions of gas trapped in cavities in the Earth's interior. Although this theory is now rejected, it is regarded as a pioneering attempt to explain earthquakes scientifically. He also conducted research on the origins of race. He argued that racial differences were the result of adaptation to the environment. This was a very progressive idea at the time. Furthermore, it is not widely known that he even studied the laws of wind and the effects of the Earth's rotation. Particularly interesting are the geography lectures he gave. Kant never left Königsberg during his lifetime, but he read from his vast collection of travelogues and geography books and gave detailed geography lectures as if he had traveled all over the world. His lecture notes contain incredibly detailed descriptions of the climate, and even the customs of the inhabitants of each region. How was it? The unexpected facets of Kanto that we have presented in this article. A regular life, opportunities for romance, sociability, and a wide range of intellectual curiosity were all important elements that shaped Kant as a person. These were all important elements that shaped Kant as a person. In fact, Kant's famous quote, "The light of the starry sky and the moral law in the heart," is said to have been born from his experience during his daily evening walks. So philosophical speculation and daily life were in perfect harmony in his mind. I would like to conclude with a quote from Kant. "The greatest waste in life is comparison." I believe these words resonate deeply with those of us living today. Well, that's all for this issue. If you like, please subscribe to our channel and click the good button. See you next time.